The miracle of Mecca, engineering time above the clouds. From the edge of the atmosphere, a bright point pierces the darkness of the Arabian desert, a spiritual center that draws billions. But at the heart of this sacred spot, there was an engineering challenge about to change the skyline forever. The ground wasn't just sand, it was harsh mountain terrain and centuries of history. The mission: build a skyscraper that defies the laws of physics next to the holiest place on earth without disrupting Hajj rituals. And the vision wasn't just a hotel, but a complete vertical city. That's where the Abraj Al Bayt project emerged. A complex with a total area of 1.5 million square meters, more than the combined area of dozens of skyscrapers. It all started with soil analysis. The rock here isn't ordinary. It's extremely hard granite, intertwined with groundwater veins, a geological nightmare that threatens any traditional foundation. So, engineers faced an impossible dilemma. How do you place millions of tons of concrete and steel on steep, solid ground, and how do you guarantee the stability of a tower that will reach 601 meters in an earthquake-active area? Then came Phase 0, clearing the site, a process as delicate as brain surgery, where a single mistake could mean disaster next to the Grand Mosque in Mecca. That demanded extreme precision in removing the old terrain. At the same time, load calculations were astronomical. The main tower alone would weigh hundreds of thousands of tons, massive compression forces that required rethinking soil mechanics from scratch. Gravity wasn't the only enemy, wind was too. At this height, air currents turn into invisible hammers, hitting the structure regularly, which requires an aerodynamic design that resists wind vortices. And since accuracy here is measured in millimeters, any slight deviation at the base would turn into a catastrophic lean by meters at the top. So, the latest laser surveying devices were used to ensure perfect alignment. After that, the fleet began to move. Hundreds of trucks and heavy machines were mobilized in complex logistics that looked like military maneuvers to keep materials flowing without stopping. As massive excavators cut into the granite in a steel versus stone battle that lasted months, preparing the ground for the biggest concrete mat the region would ever see, a new challenge appeared: Zamzam water and groundwater. The site had to be completely isolated with an underground barrier system and advanced pumps to prevent water from seeping into the foundations or contaminating the sacred sources. Then, rebar was chosen, with extreme care, chemically treated alloys to resist rust and humidity for hundreds of years. The building was designed to last centuries, not decades. The site turned into a beehive that never slept. Work continued 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in a frantic race against time to finish the foundations before the next Hajj seasons. In front of us was now a giant pit, a wound in the earth, tens of meters deep, ready to receive millions of cubic meters of concrete that would form the roots of this man-made mountain. Then came the steel forest stage. The rebar density in the foundations was so high that workers struggled to fit their hands in to tie the bars together. In that stage, the arms of giant pumps rose to pour the gray lifeline. This concrete wasn't ordinary. It was a high-performance mix designed to handle unbelievable pressure. And with it came the chemical challenge. Concrete generates enormous heat as it cures. And if the temperature rose too much, the foundation would crack. So the ingredients were cooled with ice before pouring, in a continuous, historic concrete pour, where thousands of mixers took turns unloading to create one solid base with no joints, ensuring loads were distributed evenly. And the mat alone wasn't enough. Deep concrete piles were driven down to anchor the tower into bedrock, like the roots of a huge tree, gripping the ground against storms. From the dark bottom, the lower floors began to appear. These floors weren't just parking garages, but the supporting structure that absorbs vibrations from the upper tower. In parallel, seismic isolation systems and shock dampers were installed, a technology that lets the building sway flexibly with earthquakes instead of breaking, engineering that mimics the flexibility of palm trees. Meanwhile, the main load-bearing columns began to rise, and each column was an engineering masterpiece of composite steel and concrete, able to carry the weight of the Eiffel Tower on its own. At connection points, steel bolts were tightened to precisely specified torque, no room for error. Every bolt plays a role in the safety of the giant structure. Then, the project's wide body started taking shape, the base that would contain shopping centers and prayer halls holding tens of thousands, adding more complexity to load distribution. The secret lies in the heart. Very thick, concrete walls at the center of the tower form the backbone that ensures rigidity and houses the elevators and services. For that, self-climbing slipform technology was used, a hydraulic system that automatically lifts the forms with each pour, speeding up construction in an astonishing way. As construction reached the 10th floor, logistics got harder. How do you move thousands of workers and millions of tons of materials upward efficiently? So temporary external elevators were installed, like lifelines feeding the worksite in the sky, carrying human armies and light equipment up and down. At the same time, massive steel bridges linked the side towers together, forming a complex network that increased the stability of the complex as a single mass against the wind. Professional welding teams worked non-stop, and every weld joint was X-rayed to confirm it was free of bubbles or microscopic cracks. Strict oversight ruled the site, with independent inspection teams roaming and testing. Every cubic meter safety in Mecca is a red line that can't be crossed. Even the exterior cladding began its preparations. Choosing stone and glass wasn't just about looks. It had to withstand the scorching Mecca sun and sandstorms. At the same time, the smart building began to operate, with sensors embedded in the concrete to monitor stress, shrinkage, and expansion, sending live data to engineers moment by moment. Little by little, the giant started to lift its head above Mecca's buildings, announcing a new era of high-rise construction. The massive base's features began to complete, and then came nature's first test: heavy rain. The huge drainage systems proved their efficiency, swallowing floodwaters and protecting the site from drowning. Inside the guts of the building, kilometers of pipes and cables were laid, arteries of power and water that would feed thousands of rooms in a complex system that demanded surgical precision. Fire protection was a top priority, so the steel structure was coated with advanced foamy materials that swell with heat to insulate the steel and prevent collapse in the worst conditions. Then the lifting beasts arrived, giant tower cranes imported specifically for the job, capable of self-climbing and working at heights that would make the toughest people dizzy. Assembling cranes in the sky would have been suicidal without strict safety procedures. Each piece weighing tons was installed with clockwork precision. From the operator's cabin, the crane driver sees a breathtaking scene, and the responsibility is massive. Anything that falls from this height turns into a deadly projectile. After the base stage ended, the real challenge began: the vertical climb of the Royal Tower. Here, the rules change, wind and gravity become harsher. To speed things up, prefab room technology was used. Bathrooms and full units were manufactured in factories and lifted into place like giant Lego pieces. The pace accelerated insanely, with a new floor completed every few days in a symphony of concrete and steel, played by thousands of working hands in amazing coordination. By the time we reached 200 meters, we had surpassed most towers in the area. But the journey wasn't halfway yet. The goal was to pierce the clouds and reach over 600 meters. Here came the major turning point, shifting from reinforced concrete structure to a hybrid steel structure that would form the clock's neck and the tower's head. Meanwhile, in labs in Canada and Europe, a tower model underwent harsh wind tunnel testing. The design had to scatter the wind instead of blocking it to reduce vibrations. The phenomenon of vortex shedding was the biggest obsession, so the tower's corners were carved, and the facade adjusted to break up these air vortices that could cause seasickness-like sway for visitors. The composite columns at this height are a technological marvel. Steel plates with exceptional thickness combined with concrete to deliver the strength of steel and the stability of stone. The higher we went, the faster the winds became. The cranes now worked in weather conditions completely different from the ground, and they automatically stopped if wind speed exceeded a certain limit. Working at 400 meters requires a special kind of people, rare courage, and steel focus, where the sky is the ceiling and the ground is just a distant canvas. And pumping concrete to this height required some of the strongest pumps in the world. The pressure inside the pipes was enormous enough to sever a human hand if a leak happened, so safety was doubled. As that was happening, the clock's supporting structure began to appear. A massive steel frame weighing 12,000 tons, designed not only to hold the clock, but to resist storms and earthquakes at the same time. Those interlocking steel trusses form a strong cage, designed with an engineering system that distributes loads in every direction to protect the sensitive mechanisms inside. In specialized factories in Europe and Asia, the clock face facade was being made from advanced materials, carbon fiber and ceramic reinforced glass. And the golden mosaic tiles weren't just for decoration. They're made from glass and 24-karat gold, and were tested to withstand extreme temperatures and harsh climate changes. After that, Transporting the clock parts was a logistics nightmare. Giant pieces that had to be shipped across seas, then moved by special trucks through the desert to the crowded heart of Mecca. Then back to the top, where the giant cranes, Liebherr 355, lifted the curved beams. Positioning accuracy here was measured in millimeters, despite the massive sizes. Installation up in the air was like assembling a Swiss wristwatch, but at skyscraper scale, every piece had a specific place and a serial number that couldn't be swapped. Behind the clock face are vast spaces, floors dedicated to an astronomical observatory, museums, and control rooms, all suspended inside this steel structure. The floors in this section are made from metal panels and lightweight concrete to reduce dead load on the structure while keeping the required stiffness. Because the winds at the top prevent good welding, workers were forced to install small protective shields around each weld point to protect the electric arc and ensure quality fusion. And since energy is life, massive backup generators were hoisted to the upper floors to ensure that the clock and elevators would never stop, even if electricity were cut off from the entire city. Then we reach the mechanical engine of the clock, the largest in the world, bronze and steel gears the size of cars, assembled and tested on the ground first to ensure precision of movement. Due to their enormous weight exceeding 21 tons per engine, the mechanism was disassembled to be lifted piece by piece, then reassembled in the engine room, suspended in the sky. As for the clock hands, they weren't made of iron due to its weight, but from advanced carbon fiber used in aircraft to be light and strong enough to withstand the winds. The hour hand is hollow from the inside. Its size allows a person to enter for maintenance, in a brilliant design that combines function and engineering beauty. The moment of raising the hands was critical. Any collision with the structure meant destroying months of work. The operation was carried out on a day when the winds had completely calmed, followed by the hands bonding with the heart of the clock, where the central axis, made of solid steel, received the hands, and the journey of time began in Mecca. Behind the glass, an array of 2 million LED lights was installed, an advanced lighting technology that allows the time to be seen clearly from distances of tens of kilometers, supported by a very complex electrical network for controlling the lighting, and intelligent systems that automatically adjust screen brightness according to sunlight and moonlight. Then, workers began dressing the outer facade with mosaic pieces. 98 million mosaic pieces were installed manually and mechanically. In the largest hanging art mural, while the phrase "God is greatest" towers above the clock in authentic Arabic calligraphy, designed and executed with materials that reflect light during the day and emit light at night. Meanwhile, industrial climbing crews rappelled like spiders to clean and install final touches in a profession that does not tolerate error, where the void below swallows everything. And while work proceeded at the peak, lower floors witnessed luxurious finishes, and thousands of hotel rooms were being equipped to the highest standards of luxury. Along with the artery of movement, giant elevators with double cabins, moving at speeds reaching 6 meters per second, with air pressure systems to protect passengers' ears. Elevator safety tests were rigorous, simulating free falls to ensure emergency brakes would work in fractions of a second. And above the clock, the most delicate part began. The metal structure of the crown and the crescent, a tower above a tower, made of lightweight steel, resistant to weather conditions. This slender section is most susceptible to vibration, so it was designed to be flexible, dancing with the winds instead of resisting and breaking. Then came the turn of the massive sound system, with huge speakers directed with engineering precision to broadcast the call to prayer clearly for a distance of 7 kilometers without annoying echoes. Sound engineers performed complex calculations to adjust frequencies, taking into account Mecca's mountainous terrain and sound reflections from neighboring buildings. And because the tower is a magnet for lightning, a network of pure copper envelops the top to catch lightning strikes and safely discharge their charge into the ground, away from people and equipment, leading to the Jewel, a glass structure at the summit. Here will be placed the Scientific Control Center and the Crescent Observation Center, the highest inhabited point in Mecca. The Jewel's glass is not ordinary. It's treated with nanolayers to prevent dust accumulation and reflect harsh solar radiation, maintaining coolness inside. In Dubai, the Golden Crescent was manufactured, the largest crescent made by humans, a hollow structure of fiberglass and golden mosaics, a work of art and engineering. Due to its enormous size, the crescent was cut into pieces for shipping, then reassembled at the summit in the most dangerous and complex operation, with the giant crane reaching its maximum limits. Lifting the crescent's base to a height of 600 meters required steady nerves and years of expertise from the lifting crew. And yes, there's a room inside the crescent. Workers entered the depths of this Islamic symbol to connect its parts and secure it to the tower's mast. The crescent was painted with pure gold to protect it from weather and to gleam with a dazzling shine, a beacon for hearts before eyes. Accompanying it are green laser lights, where light cannons were installed to fire vertical beams on occasions, visible from space, connecting Earth to heaven. After that, the skeleton was complete. And now, the tower stands tall, awaiting its final covering. A giant of steel and concrete telling a story of human determination. In the basement, a massive central cooling station was activated, powerful enough to freeze a small lake, necessary for cooling millions of square meters during summer heat, and pushing cold air to 600 meters high is another challenge. Achieved with massive fans and a carefully planned pressure system to ensure fresh air reaches every corner of the tower. The waste disposal system operates on air pressure, with suction tubes that transport waste from rooms to a central station in the blink of an eye. Cleanliness and technology, and every drop of water has value. With the greywater recycling system used for irrigation and cooling, a commitment to sustainability in a dry desert environment. Moreover, alarm and automatic sprinkler systems underwent thousands of tests, because in a building this size, controlling any fire in its infancy is a matter of life and death. In the security operations room, thousands of cameras and electronic eyes monitor every corridor and corner, an integrated security system ensuring comfort and safety for the guests of Mercy. Some squares were equipped with movable roofs, with precise mechanical engineering, allowing the roof to open for ventilation or close to protect worshippers from the sun. Time accuracy depends on an atomic clock with a satellite connection system, ensuring Mecca's timing is precise to nanoseconds, a new global reference for time. In the royal suites, craftsmen place finishing touches of gold and marble, merging modern luxury with Islamic heritage in interior design, while central kitchens began trial operations, food factories capable of feeding an entire city with strict cleanliness and quality standards. Then, exterior lighting was programmed with millions of color possibilities, but calm and spiritual colors were chosen to harmonize with the sanctity of the place. The bridges and tunnels connecting the tower to the Haram squares ensure controlled human flow to facilitate pilgrims' movement and prevent crowding during peak times, and hundreds of escalators were installed in the shopping center, creating an internal transportation network, ensuring smooth movement between commercial and residential floors. Afterwards, uninterruptible power supply (UPS) battery testing was conducted in entire rooms, filled with giant batteries, ready for immediate intervention and protection of sensitive systems. Robotic and automatic cleaning carts began operations. Cleaning facades at this height requires special technology to combat dust and winds, with the Crescent Observation Center and Cosmic Museum equipped with advanced telescopes and monitoring devices, making the tower a scientific and astronomical beacon for the Islamic world. Final structural safety inspections were then performed, with international engineers reviewing every document and test. The final seal means the tower is ready for life. And at the moment of farewell to the last crane, the crane that built the summit was dismantled and lowered piece by piece, a complex operation marking the end of heavy construction work. After scaffolding was removed from the clock face, for the first time, the bright face of time appeared, unveiling a new architectural icon. Then, the 0 hour struck, and the giant gears began rotating. The hands moved with majestic regularity, announcing the beginning of Mecca's timing to the world. At night, the tower transformed into a green beacon, and the stunning lights, visible from far distances, made it a landmark for those arriving in Mecca. Eyes gazed toward the sky as pilgrims and worshippers looked with amazement at this edifice, combining structural grandeur with the spirituality of the place. Halls filled with worshippers, sound traveled clearly, the air was cool and comfortable, thus achieving the goal of providing an ideal environment for the guests of Mercy. By comparison, Mecca's clock is 35 times larger than the famous Big Ben, an engineering achievement making it unquestionably the largest and tallest clock. Then, the call to prayer rang out, the voice of truth reverberating through the latest sound technology, embracing mountains and reaching hearts, in a moment of reverence where technology united with faith. In a beautiful astronomical scene, the moon of heaven, aligns with the tower's crescent, a picture condensing harmony between what the creator made and what humans built. With energy efficiency, despite its size, the tower uses smart systems to conserve consumption, a model for green buildings in a harsh environment. Behind the scenes, an army of technicians continues working, as maintenance here is an endless process, ensuring the continuation of this edifice. The observation platform offers an unparalleled view, where circumambulation appears as a moving white canvas, a new perspective, revealing the grandeur of organization in the sacred mosque. Greetings to the hands that built it, thousands of workers and engineers from every corner of the earth, united by one goal, leaving their mark on the history of Islamic architecture. Let a complete day pass in the tower's life. The sun rises and sets. The tower reflects the colors of the sky, steady, towering, and witnessing to time. The fine details in the decorations tell a story of mastery, each arch, each carving, executed with utmost care to endure for generations. During occasions and holidays, the tower adorns itself with festive light flashes, LED technology transforming it into a giant display screen delighting visitors. When fog embraces Mecca, the tower disappears, and the clock and crescent remain floating above the clouds in a surreal scene capturing hearts. It was a difficult journey, with challenges that nearly stopped the project and enormous pressures, but the result was worth every drop of sweat shed. We pull back to see the complete complex, 7 towers integrating and harmonizing, forming an architectural and service dam befitting the holiness of the place. The tower has become part of visitors' memories, the backdrop to their photos and remembrances, and a symbol of urban development the kingdom is witnessing to serve pilgrims. The tower's orientation toward the Qibla is 100% accurate, even in engineering design. The direction toward the Kaaba was the compass, guiding every decision. Even rainwater doesn't go to waste, but is collected and treated. A lesson in respecting natural resources and harnessing engineering to serve the environment. The tower's base alone is a city with networks of roads and underground tunnels for buses and cars, separating pedestrian movement from vehicles for everyone's safety, along with the Clock Tower Museum, an educational journey, explaining to visitors how the universe was built and how this tower was constructed, merging faith and science. The pristine white color of the crown symbolizes purity and peace, making the tower appear as a pearly beacon, illuminating the sky of the holy city. Meanwhile, protection records show system efficiency, with dozens of lightning strikes safely absorbed and discharged. Divine protection supported by engineering causes. On one final tour around the crescent, from here, from the highest point, the world looks small, and only God's face of majesty and honor remains. From paper to reality, from a hole in the ground to a skyscraper embracing clouds, the epic of construction that lasted years has been completed, condensing centuries of human experience. Even the birds of the Haram found shade in this edifice, in coexistence between nature and architecture, between serenity and magnitude. This tower will remain standing, designed to last hundreds of years, a witness to a golden age of Islamic architecture and technical advancement. The tower has changed Mecca's skyline forever, no longer merely a building, but a landmark unmistakable to the eye, a compass guiding hearts before bodies. And finally, the voice of "God is greatest" rings out, not merely words carved in stone, but a reality embodied in every corner. All this human creativity is a gift from the Creator. We leave Mecca, and the image remains etched in memory. The clock tower, an engineering miracle, an artistic masterpiece, and a symbol of service to the guests of mercy. Here where time meets eternity, and here ends our story of building time above the clouds. The sound of clock chimes fades.